right, hello everyone. My name is Acacia Mariello, and I'm a member of the Boston Community Equity Task Force. And I'm here today with Alan and Sondra Haywood, who are two local residents whose lives have been impacted by organ donation. So they're going to tell us a bit about their story. So I'm going to let them take it away. So Alan, why don't we start with you? Tell us a little bit about yourself, your age, your occupation, any hobbies, interests.
Okay. Well, I'm 67 years old, resident of Ossining. I'm a semi-retired photographer. It does fine art and sort of commercial photography. I'm interested in music, primarily jazz and R&B, and I'm also a movie buff. I like old movies as well as new movies. And before the pandemic, we were into travel around the United States, where I like to photograph, places where we go. And I was also doing jazz photography locally in local venues. And I was transplanted in 1997. So it's been almost 25 years.
Wow, okay. And so what condition led to you needing an organ transplant, and which organ was it, or organs if it was more than one?
Well, it's a heart transplant, and they actually really didn't know exactly what caused me to go into heart failure until after my transplant. And it happened to be sarcoidosis, which affects mostly African-American men and women, but generally around the age when it affected me in people's 30s and 40s. And it's an autoimmune disease that caused me to go into heart failure.
Got it. Yep.
Yeah. And it was kind of a long journey. First, I was seeing a local cardiologist, and I had a pacemaker put in, and that I was feeling better for almost a year. And then I wasn't feeling good. And the doctor decided to put me on the transplant list, which was quite a shock. And so I went to Columbia Presbyterian Hospital and was evaluated, and I was put on the transplant list. I guess I don't really remember the time period.
Well, you first got sick in 95.
Yeah. So by 96, I was not doing well, and it was decided that I had to stay in the hospital. I couldn't come home, and I was put on IV drugs, and that worked for a while, for a few months, and then that stopped working. And I received a LVAD, which is a left ventricular assist device, which is basically a pneumatic pump that pumps the left side of your heart. And I had that in for about 3 months. I was actually able to come home for a while, and I had this kind of device that was powered by batteries, and I was able to, have limited travel around and
around Westchester.
Around Westchester and back and forth to Manhattan to the doctor. And then one night I got a phone call and they had a heart available. And I went down to Columbia and received the heart transplant. And
So all told, how long about were you waiting for the heart?
I think it was probably about a year all told, including having the LVAD. When I had the LVAD, that was a very rough recovery for me. It took months, and basically I kind of had to learn how to walk again, and had a lot of physical therapy, occupational therapy. But after the transplant, I was home in 2 weeks. So it was pretty miraculous.
Immediately after the transplant, less than 24 hours after, he was sitting up and waving, saying, he's waving by. They took him off their respirators and everything, which is unusual, but he did good.
Oh.
Very fortunate.
So do you know anything about the person who donated the organ that you received?
I think all we really know is a 38-year-old male from the heart came from St. Vincent's Hospital, and I was 43 at the time. And I did, transplants can write letters through the organ donation organizations. So I did write 1 or 2 letters, but I never got a response back from the family.
Yeah, they have an entire bank that any transplant can write to them, and they'll forward it, or at least notify them that there is a letter for them. Whether they accept it or not, we don't know.
Right.
So he felt maybe it would bother them more, him continuing to write than not. So he stopped writing them.
Yeah. Behind me, there's a photograph of a friend of ours who also received a heart transplant. And I took that picture, and he actually got to meet his donor family and became friends with them, which is unusual. But he was very grateful that he got to become part of their family.
He also did the New York Marathon for many, power walked, but did the New York Marathon for many years. Even his last year that he was able to move around, he already had emphysema, and he still did it.
Yeah.
With a nurse on one side and a friend on the other side, but he did it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, remarkable.
That's amazing. So what would you like prospective donors to know about this process, about organ donation and transplants and things like that?
One donor can help up to about 75 people, which includes organs and skin and tissue and eyes and corneas. The family actually has to give consent if the donor was in that situation to donate organs. If the person
is a registered donor.
Was a registered donor, if they're incapacitated. There are living donors for kidneys and I think liver and maybe even pancreas. I'm not sure, but so there's two ways, and then if the person is incapacitated, they have to actually be brain dead. There's a lot of myths out there that, my organs, if I get sick, they're going to take my organs. That's a myth. And even if you are a registered donor, the family has to give the final consent.
In the United States.
Yes, yeah.
95% of all Americans support organ donations, but only 54% are registered donors. So that's a major factor too.
Yeah. And I am a donor, but I can't donate any organs because I'm on immunosuppressants. So I think the only thing that I can donate is maybe cornea.
And so, is there anything that you think that prospective recipients, like people who are waiting for an organ, should know about transplants?
Well, to be very proactive and positive. You really have to kind of take charge and, do what the doctor says. Take your medications, which is in the beginning, it's kind of very overwhelming because there's so many meds that you have to take and so many different times that you have to take them. Family and friend support is very important. Sondra and I, and even our daughter, who was 10 at the time, went to support group meetings, and we got a lot of support from other families and other transplant recipients and people that were on the waiting list. So we all kind of went through this process as a group. And, it's important to, after you are transplanted, to, engage life, try and resume as much as possible. A lot of our fellow transplants kind of focused part of their lives on helping other transplants, either by speaking or helping with organ donation, because we're all very grateful at this second chance that we have received.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay, is there anything else you'd like to share with people tuning in at home, either of you, both of you?
The average life expectancy, at least for a heart transplant, is like 13 and a half years, but obviously Alan's double that, almost double that. So it just gives you your life back to whatever extent it holds in, but he obviously got what he needed. So I think it's a positive thing to let other people know that you can have a life again. When you're in heart failure or any failure, you really, every day is like, this is it. And it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. Well, I cherish my second chance, my family and my friends. I couldn't have done it without them. And of course, my gratitude goes to all the doctors and the nurses. It's kind of, you're taken care of by a whole, village, I guess. And, my daughter was 9 when I got sick, and
When you
now
were
she's
transplanted.
34, and I've got to see her grow, go through school, graduate high school, college,
Grad
school, have a career, and get married. And we've gone through this together, and we are very grateful that we've had all this time.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much to both of you for being willing to share your stories and to tell us more about this. And this is streaming live right now on Facebook, and it'll live on our Austin Equity Task Force page afterwards, so that folks can return to it anytime. And we'll also be sharing information about how anyone watching can enroll to be an organ donor. So thank you again for providing all that inspiration, and especially my goodness, the amount of years that you've gotten, hopefully still have left to go, based on that, is really incredible and inspiring. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure. All right.
All right.